Hey everyone, today I'm joined by JR Lay. JR is the founder of the Level Up Business OS and a seasoned advisor to financial institutions on digital growth. He is the author of two best-selling books, host of a top 5% global podcast, and a former agency owner who has spent over 2 decades helping brands identify blind spots and scale strategically. I wanted to have JR on because too many agency owners ignore their own frustrations instead of using those to unlock their next level of growth. So, in this episode, we discussed turning frustration into your next business breakthrough, finding and packaging your unique wisdom, building trust through truth telling and conviction, and more. No one was asking for another community, but I've made one anyway. So, what's different? The dynamic agency community is designed around access rather than content. Access to peers who've done it before, access to experts who've designed solutions, access to resources that have been battle tested. And right now, the price for founding members is only $97 a year. Join today so your agency has immediate access to everything you need to grow. You can join at dynamicagency.community. And now, JR Lay. It's easier than ever to start an agency, but it's only getting harder to stand out and keep it alive. Join me as we explore the strategies agencies are using today to secure a better tomorrow. This is Agency Forward. What was the turning point that led you to create the Level Up Business OS?
The turning point for me was frustration. I was really feeling frustrated with my previous business that had essentially, it was an agency from 2002 to 2012 up until that point. I was actually feeling frustration around that 2012 time period. And I brought in some outside help that I should have brought in earlier. David C. Baker came in and he was like, I think you hate your business. And I had about 13 full-time W-2 employees at the time. And it's like, yeah, you're right. And just having that, someone tell me what I needed to really probably tell myself was such a freeing exercise. He goes, why don't you blow that up? Why don't you move into the advisory space? And so we did. So from 2012 to 2024, we had an advisory driven business, financial services, helping banks and credit unions see where they had blind spots in their buying journeys. Did a lot of website secret shopping studies, wrote a couple of books, launched one of the top 5% podcasts in the world. But it was almost a decade later, I was feeling this like friction and frustration again of like, something needs to change. And I think the irony of it is I had just written my second book, Banking on Change. And what I was realizing is, I need to change. And so that was the impetus to start launching this second business with the Level Up Business OS.
Yeah. So frustration can make a lot of businesses, but it can also break them. Mm-hmm. What was it about your mindset, your circumstances, anything that led you to taking the positive side of that?
I would say it's everything that I'd experienced over the last 10, 12 years of my life. Had it happened a decade before, it probably would have taken me down. But because I had already been through that experience of frustration, it's every obstacle I see as a new opportunity to truly level up. And having gone through obstacles before in the past, this was just another obstacle of, okay, I'm feeling this. I'm aware of this. I don't know why per se. And I'm not even really interested in the why. It's just, I know that I need to make a move. And there's another book too, that I think references this context of time. It's a book called Passages. I believe it's been a while since I had was referred to the book. I haven't personally read it, but it's about every 7 or 10 years we have to make a change, whether that's with a business, with a relationship, whether that's moving a physical geographical location. And that's what they, in marriage, you call it the 7-year itch. And so just being aware of where you are in this context of time, as I started looking back, I'm like, about every 7 to 10 years, I've had to make a change as an entrepreneur. And I've been doing this for 23, 24 years at this point. So I'm like, yeah, about every 7 to 10 years, it's time for me to make a big move. And it's scary at the time, but it's also where I have found my biggest growth has come from as an entrepreneur, but also just as an individual, as a father, as a husband.
Mm-hmm. Like that. The I've met a lot of entrepreneurs who took other approaches for and struggled a lot longer than they had to,
In what
instead of just
way?
embracing the frustration and staying with it and holding, man, kind of held them back from opportunities, right? That they were right in front of them. Being understanding, hey, I could go partner with these people, and a lot of the pains that I'm having here go away, and it actually opens me up to focus on my unique value uh, and run with this. But instead, they're so focused on just how much anger they have with their business that they
Ah,
sit in it and they don't see all of those other things that they could be doing. And so,
that's fascinating.
definitely,
It's like you said, they could go work with what makes them uniquely them. And I think for me, that's been my journey. It's like I started out building websites. The internet was still relatively in its infancy. It was 2002, 2003.
Mhm.
And that was great. That was a skill. I built it, really good at it, built a team around it, hated it after a while.
Mhm.
And then it was like, okay, did the advisory consulting thing, built it, was really good at it, made a lot of money from it. But then it's like I started to feel this friction. But along that was the next skill I was developing, which was writing books and starting a podcast. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, that's a lot of fun. That's giving me a lot of energy. So for me, it was a lot of self awareness into what was either I was getting a lot of energy from or what was taking energy from me, and being really
Mhm.
aware of the it's either I'm getting energy or I'm not, or I'm losing energy,
Yeah.
and just being really really honest with that, because it comes down to the unique ability that I learned about in Strategic Coach
Mhm.
as a member there.
Someone someone recently said they put people into buckets as a batteries included or not included people,
Oh
and
yeah,
they really
oh
only
yeah.
want to find people who are batteries included to be around. And that stuck with me. And so when you bring up the energy, whether it's taking or giving, uh,
Hmm.
yeah, something great to be able to build your life around, and therefore your business around as well. It's like, is this charging me up so that I am a batteries included, or do I rely on other people to be able to kind of pick me up?
Yeah, and when you think about this idea of energy, I used to kind of like, that's hocus pocus. I'm not going to give a lot of attention to that. But I will say, if I look back in hindsight and in retrospect, the more that I've been focused on, or at least paying attention to where I'm at, quote unquote, energetically. I even wrote about this in Banking on Change. It's a key model of Banking on Change, to where the question is do you care enough for growth? And CARE is an acronym
Mhm.
for committing to a cause greater than the present moment. So really operating from a future state that you can't perhaps see. Maybe you're the only one who can see that right now. Adapting your beliefs and your behaviors, because your beliefs are going to drive your behaviors. So you have to adapt a belief system that's no longer serving you. The R is to have the resiliency to do so, because it might not be easy. But in hindsight, it's like, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And then
Mhm.
the E in CARE is the energy. It's the emotion in motion. And it's like your energy is going to either be increasing and elevating and leveling up, or your energy is going to be neutral, or your energy more likely than not is going to be decreasing. Let's get rid of all of those activities. And something else is, you were talking about the two types of people, either batteries included or
Mhm.
batteries not included, that helped me on this front was the Colby profile from Kathy Colby.
Mhm.
And really getting an understanding as to what and how I'm going to take action or solve a problem, or how I'm going to resist taking action or resist solving a problem. That was another big point of self awareness in the shift of the business over the last 23 years. And having that knowledge made a massive difference just for my own personal journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I was super uh, fascinated with the Colby profile when you sent over that
Oh, yeah.
assessment and
You
stuff,
did
and I
yours too.
worked
That's
through
right.
it. Yeah. And
What,
it,
what, what did you find
you
from that?
uh, I mean, it gave more. I can't remember. I need to commit this stuff to memory a little better, but basically, I can. I'm pretty like flexible where I
You're
can.
a facilitator. That's right.
Yes,
I
that
think
sounds
about
right.
Audrey. You
But
and I talked. We talked
but
about.
yeah, so I can blend it like when I need something to happen or the team needs something to happen, I can kind of assume that role and make it happen. And I might not be the best at doing anything,
Right.
but I can bring these people together, get us at least kicked off to for them to be running with it. And
Yes.
which looking at my career in the army, looking at running an agency, all these things, like that's been the role I've had to fill. And so I
Right.
don't know if I was successful in those roles because I had that personality, or I learned it in those roles, and that's what made me successful. And
Well,
so,
I think that's the distinction to make between like Colby and Disc and Myers Briggs. Colby. It's looking at the cognitive part of the mind, so it's looking at how an individual is going to naturally take action or solve a
mhm,
problem. Where like your Disc and your Myers Briggs, that's looking at your affective part of your
right,
mind. So it's more of the emotive piece, if you will, the
mhm,
personality. And for me, I'm what is known as a 3294. So it's a fact finder. Those number categories are fact finder, follow through, quick start, and then implementer. And implementer is how you work with the tangible world. And so in the context of like the agency space, we tend to see more resistant implementers there. The initiating implementers, meaning they have a quote unquote higher number, but it's not a high or low. It's not a good or a bad. It's
mhm,
just you tend to have one initiating number. And so those who initiate in the implementing world are those who work with their hands, the carpenters, plumbers, HVAC, doctors, physicians. Whereas for me, I'm initiating action as a lot of entrepreneurs do in that quick start energy. So
mhm,
that is, I'm a 9. So I'm a 3294, meaning I'm going to like podcast, right? And I think that's the thing. Any creative activity, I'm very drawn to. It's the follow through where I begin to lose my energy. So I'm a 2 follow through, meaning I'm resisting following through on anything. So
right,
systems, processes, documentation, I can do it, not my cup of tea, but I know that if I do it, I'm going to be very, very tired. But that's where you start building a team
right.
around the complementary Colby profiles.
Yep. So let's shift gears to I want to talk about how or why so many B2B founders struggle to differentiate themselves.
I think because they struggle to differentiate themselves. And what I mean by that is they struggle to see their own uniqueness
Mhm,
within themselves, what truly makes them unique. And as I think about this next evolution of just business in this age of AI, knowledge is getting commoditized within large language models.
mhm,
And so what makes an agency unique is a lot of times going to be come back to the founder or the founding team, the partners, and we can call that unique wisdom. And so that unique wisdom is the sum of their unique perspective, which is their lived, learned, and shared experiences that has been further multiplied by their unique methods, how their models, their frameworks, their systems of how
mhm,
they visually communicate that unique perspective they've gained through the lived, learned, and shared experiences. But if they don't believe, and this is the key, if they don't believe that they're even unique to begin with in the first place, it's going to be very hard for them to see that. It's kind of like you're inside a bottle. You don't see what makes
mhm,
you unique because you're stuck in the bottle. It's very hard to read the label. A lot of times it's where someone from the objective outside world is saying, you know what? I think this is where you have, this is your gift. And that's what has happened for me over the years. Like, wow, you're a great interviewer. You help people unlock things that they probably wouldn't share otherwise. And at first I was like denying that. Like, no,
mhm.
that's not me. I don't want to do that. But I think the more that I became like, oh, this is who I am. This is why I'm here. This is my gift. If I deny this, then I'm not helping other people unlock their gifts. And so it's the differentiation comes from the resistance to probably who they are and the gifts that they bring to the world to begin with in the first place. That's one,
Yeah.
I would say.
If you're new to a space, new to an environment, and you're trying to find that unique wisdom,
Mm.
how do you? What's the first step? Where do you start looking?
Look back on your past. Look back on where you have naturally created value for the world around you. And it doesn't always have to be in business per se. Like I actually had a friend, and we're still friends. His name's Omar. And Omar and I, we went to high school together. We've known each other since ninth grade. We were actually in the same first period, Miss Bungo's English AP class. And so we went to high school. And in 10th grade, we had Miss Bradley. And in Miss Bradley's class, another English class, we had to give a presentation. It was like our first big presentation that we had to give in high school. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go all in on this thing, and made this amazing presentation, PowerPoint deck back in the day. And it was all animated, but then I was speaking over it and it was kind of playing behind me. And Omar was like, wow. Because I was the very first, I was like, I'm going to go first because I'm going to set the stage. Everyone who comes behind me, I'm going to make it, they're going to have to work extra hard to level up. Well, Omar said, 15 years later, because I've done a lot of public speaking, keynotes and events and whatnot. He goes, man, what you're doing today, he goes, I saw you had a gift. I saw you had a skill all the way back in ninth grade. And it came so naturally. So he goes, I'm not surprised with what you're doing at all. So I think it's being very aware of where you have skills and gifts. Even if you're entering into a new vertical, you might not be an expert in that vertical, but you probably have some sort of expertise that you've developed naturally over the years that you may or may not be aware of.
Yeah, it's probably a good, still a very hard thing to identify.
It's hard to identify because perhaps we don't take enough time to pause and look in the mirror and see the person looking back at us. That's a very uncomfortable conversation to have, for that matter, because I know it used to be very uncomfortable for me to look back in the eyes, looking back to me in the mirror and saying, who are you and why are you here? I get it. These are existential questions. But when you're talking about positioning and differentiation, not just as an agency, but in a particular vertical, I think these are the hard conversations that we have to A, have with ourselves, B, what we have to have with our organization.
Agreed. I think when you have those trusted partners, members of your team, right, even just friends, right, from the past, who you can lean on and just say, hey, I need to talk through some stuff. I guess that sounds a little intimidating for someone coming in. Hey, I want to talk through like my unique value that I can provide to people, and I need you to help me talk through this. A lot of times that's people who like respect you and like they want to work with you. They're going to jump right into those conversations, and they'll start noticing things that you had never noticed about yourself.
Yeah. One of the things I really am so keen on is for people who are watching or listening, I want to send them away with something that they can do, they can take action on. And so you're right, going in to ask friends, but also perhaps asking past clients as well. And go out, identify anywhere between 10 to 25. And I say 25, well, not every 25 is going to say yes. But if you can this is pattern matching, but you're not the one doing the pattern matching. You're just simply going to ask the questions and have the conversations of, think about the last time that we worked together, and perhaps they are a current client and you're still working together. Maybe it's a past client, and it's an open-ended question. In our time together, what were the activities, or how did I help to create the greatest value for you, for your team, for your organization? And just shut up and just listen. It's like the best way that we can grow is just to go all in on other people. And all is an acronym for just ask, listen, and learn. But the hardest part of that, the most, I would say, intimidating part, is just to go ask. But there's some ancient wisdom: ask and you shall receive, knock and the door shall be open. So just go ask, go knock, and just be willing to hear what they're sharing for what it is, because it's just data at the end of the day.
Almost all growth is on the other side of something very uncomfortable. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. Yeah, go knock, go ask.
Growth never happens in the comfort zone. And I think that's the thing when you're looking for, we'll come back to your point of differentiation. It's a very intimidating exercise. I get it. I've been there. I've done that, particularly with my other business. and we went all in on financial services. But the minute that we went all in on financial services and we made that decision, and if you think about the word decision, I mean, to decide, it means to cut off all other options. It's like burn the boats. Once you decide down that path and you go all in, you ask, listen, learn, you're fully committed to that vertical. My goodness, the connections you can make, the conversations that you can have, the continuous learning, and then to be able to put that back out into the world, put that back out into the vertical to help that vertical elevate. It begins to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, because it's this constant feedback loop of helping first and selling second to elevate that vertical. And you're just nothing more than the facilitator, the guide to move people from point A to a higher up to point B to C, D, and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm. So let's say we found our unique wisdom, right? We've gone through the exercises, we've put it all together. How do we now put that out in the world without sounding overly self-promotional?
Comes back to, who are you? What is your belief? Like, literally, I was just having a podcast conversation with another entrepreneur earlier this afternoon, and I was interviewing him, and he was talking about, I'm going to do a 90-day experiment. I'm going to post every day on LinkedIn for 90 days. I was like, well, why did you commit to do that? He said, well, because I need to grow my business. Great. So you have a why. Mm-hmm. I think if you identify why you're doing what you're doing, it becomes so much easier to execute against it, no matter how comfortable it feels. So then I said, well, we were talking about his unique methodology, and the way he frames his unique methodology, I didn't say anything. He was like, it's just kind of this thing, blah, blah, blah. He was almost like downplaying it. He didn't command respect from it. And as we were going through the conversation, we looped back around to the point of marketing and communication. And he was like, I realized that as I was communicating this, I didn't have conviction behind it. And I think that's the thing that stood out, because you've been on my podcast too. That's the thing that has stood out from our discussion and our time together. You use that word conviction, and it's now like ingrained in my conscious mind. It's like, am I convicted by what I'm communicating? Because how do we communicate? I don't think it's about marketing, and I don't think it's about sales. I think it's really about communication. Because if you think about this pyramid of, we'll call it marketing, sales, and leadership, there are 3 levels on this pyramid. And a lot of people think about marketing as the communication layer. And you can communicate a few different ways. You can communicate through pretty pictures, which is how communication really began on the walls of cave paintings. You can communicate by the written word, which was then multiplied with the printing press of Gutenberg in the 1500s. You can communicate through voice, i.e. podcast. But when you put them all together, you get video. So you get pictures, words, sounds, all put together. That's communication. But to be a good communicator comes back to what we were talking about before. It's listening. That's one of the reasons we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So don't think about marketing. Don't think about sales. Don't think about promotion. Think about listening, learning, communicating to the pains that people have to help first, to sell second. But then it comes back to why. And I think this is the big thing that people are missing when it comes to marketing, sales, and leadership. At the pinnacle of this pyramid, it's influence. And what are we influencing? We're influencing behaviors, but more deeply than that, we're influencing people's beliefs. Because for people to make a decision, the behavior has to change. That's a decision. They're making a choice. They're making a purchase. They're making a commitment. But a lot of times before they do that, they're having a shift of belief to change that behavior. So I think, how do we do this without sounding promotional? It's, why are we doing it to begin with in the first place? Are we doing it from a place of care? Are we doing it to help others, to share what we see, to share what we know, so that the people we're looking to help, can ultimately grow?
And it is way easier to convince someone when you are convicted versus just kind of feeling like you have an opinion. They're like, yeah, my method's okay. Versus like, this is the method that you need.
It is the way, right? This is the way. And I know it's the way because I've already guided people down this path. Yes, there's always going to be a first, second, or a third, which more likely than not will probably be victims. Okay. And I think the more that we're comfortable letting them know that they're going to be a victim, and And every time I launch something new, I'm like, okay, you're one of the first few lucky ones to be a victim in this process. Are you okay with that? And by just simply communicating that early and often, they're like, yeah, like I want to do this with you because I believe in what the future state could be. You've already done this for others. It's like, that was the whole reason I launched Level Up Business to begin with in the first place. It's like, the work that I had done with the podcast, the best-selling books that I had written and launched, and how that truly changed my life. And that's not hyperbole, because to elevate yourself in a market, it's like, what are the ways you can do it? You can write articles. You can post on social media. Mm-hmm. You can send newsletters. I think the danger with the three of those, more than ever before, they're all ripe for commoditization more than ever before because of large language models. So you got to move up now. So what's the next step beyond that? Well, you've got podcast, fantastic content co-creation networking tool as you're doing yourself. Massive game changer for me personally. But if you have enough podcast conversations, you've made enough connections with people, you've gained enough perspective, now you can package all of that up into another LLM, not a large language model, but a little language model, i.e. a book, which becomes a portable. And it's like, that's how people can spend time with you, invest time with you, just like they're going to invest time with us here, but it's different because it's now in the physical, tangible world.
Right. So let's actually talk the importance of a kind of trust as we are building our brands, right? We have our unique wisdom. We're putting it out there in the world. We need to have, through conviction, really, we're able to start convincing people that this is the way. But a lot of it comes down to, how can I get people to trust me? And I think there's a huge, man, I don't even know what the right word for this is. A lot of people today are trying to like fabricate trust rather than building it in a genuine way and by actually caring about people. I guess what types of things are you doing with clients, with your own business, to actually like genuinely build trust with your audience?
I think the first and most important thing is to say I was a liar. Like as an entrepreneur from 2008 to 2012, I became a liar for a lot of different reasons. I was lying to myself, which I think once you start lying to yourself, that's how I got into the bad situation. Because here's the truth. And I think that's an important piece. Like when you talk about trust, it's truth telling. It's like, are we willing to tell ourselves the truth? It's the conversation that we have to have with ourselves in the mirror. And I was lying to myself. And when you lie to yourself, it becomes easier to lie to everyone around you. So I started lying to my wife. I started lying to my team. I was in a bad place. I was struggling with a lot of addictions. As you and I, before we hit record, I was also diagnosed with an autoimmune condition around that time. It was like a dark night of the soul moment. And from the outside, everyone thought, oh my gosh, like JRLA, his life is amazing. No, my life fucking sucked. And I needed some help. When you commit to tell the truth to yourself and to your wife, your husband, your partner, your spouse, your kids, like that becomes your bottom line, no matter how painful it is to tell the truth. It's so much easier to show up in an authentic manner, because you're right. People are trying to fabricate it. And when there's this energy, once again, I think people have an energy bullshit detector that can smell when there's like inauthenticity. And so we put these masks on, we put these facades on to try to show up. Firsthand experience, you can't sustain like that. It gets tiring. You start lying to lie and to cover up lies. And before you know it, you're just in a load of shit. And the only way out is to tell the truth. And when you tell the truth, it's like, that's where all change, that's where all transformation begins. And so to stand out, I know it's, I want to look this up here, because who was it? George Orwell. truth quote. Yeah, here it is. In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. There's a lot of lying going on. I was just on LinkedIn the other day and I was seeing a promotion for AI UGC, AI user generated content. Mm-hmm. And the ad was all of these synths, AI synths. Right. Pretty convincing. It's getting pretty convincing. Mm-hmm. And they're like, you won't believe the product that I tried. You have to try that. I'm like, that's a fucking lie. Like, you didn't try the product. You're not even real for that matter. So you got to, if you're not telling the truth to yourself about where you're at, your business, you're going to be lying to yourself first and foremost. And then that's just going to fracture into every other part of your life. I'm very passionate about this because I am a reformed liar. And I don't say that lightly. Like lying caused so much pain in my life. It almost cost me a marriage. And I'm so grateful for my wife because she's very forgiving. And my wife and I, we developed this model together around truth because we have helped to prepare at this point over 100 couples for marriage. We don't have a perfect marriage by any stretch of the imagination, but I think this applies. And I wrote about this in my first book, Banking on Digital Growth. Every human relationship, when I ask the question to other leaders, they're like, well, what's at the foundation of every relationship? And they say truth. And I go, it's not. The foundation of every relationship is trust. The foundation of every relationship is respect. Mm-hmm. You have to respect yourself before you can respect anyone else. And you also have to respect others before you are able to earn their trust. Mm-hmm. Because trust is the next level. Trust comes from the sum of words and actions, what you say and what you do. Like, once again, it's like as a 9 follow through, I'm really working on this because I'll make commitments and I'll say things, but I struggle to follow through on what I say. So I'm having to be very, very mindful of writing things down and really following up to do what I said I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And then at the pyramid of every human relationship, once there's respect, once there's trust, there's what we all long for at the end of the day, which is love. And love is not this touchy feel-good stuff. I'm looking at this from what the Greeks, there's 5 different levels that the Greeks were writing about when it came to love. For me, love is to just simply will the good of another person. It's coming from Thomas Aquinas. And so you can love in business, you can love in marketing, you can love in sales, you can love in leadership when you will the good of other people in everything that you do.
That's a good writer, Danner. Well, we went to a bunch of places I didn't expect to go today, but I'm happy for it. So that's a win. I have 2 more questions as we wind down. The first being, what book do you recommend every agency owner should read?
I'm going to give that some consideration. I read a lot of books, but the one that just comes to the top of my mind, and I think for this time, this period there's a lot of confusion happening right now, particularly because of AI. There's a lot of conflict, I think, that many people are feeling. And we think about, like, you're in a state of continuous confusion, you're in a state of continuous conflict. The result of that's going to be chaos. So that chaos is going to breed fear. And for me, at a time when I was feeling a lot of fear in my own life, this was 2017, I read a book titled Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And not a lot of people are familiar with this book from Napoleon Hill. When you say Napoleon Hill, they're like, oh, Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it's a good book. Outwitting the Devil, to me, is exponentially better because it taps into, and for those who are watching and listening, you haven't read the book, Napoleon Hill puts the devil on trial. And he's getting the devil to confess. He's cross-examining him. He's like, how do you control people? And it comes down to fear. And if you think about what holds us back, particularly on the agency side of reaching that next level of growth, it's fear. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of change. It's fear of failure. It's fear of success. But what I've actually learned is almost every single fear, and this comes from some of the lessons I've learned from Dr. David Hawkins, every single fear can be traced back to a fear of death. I'm going to change my business. I'm going to change my model. I'm going to commit to this vertical. What are you scared of? I'm scared that we're not going to make it. So then what are you scared of? I'm scared I'm not going to be able to get a job. So what are you scared of? I'm scared that we're going to lose our house. So what are you scared of? Then my kids aren't going to have a place to stay. So what are you scared of? Then we're not going to be able to eat. Then we're going to starve to death. Then we're going to die. It's like you can almost, if we start addressing fear and confronting that head on, I think we win at that point. But to do that, you got to outwit the devil, which is the whole reason for reading the book from Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, and the story goes for that one. He wrote it and decided not to publish it because he didn't think the world was ready for it. When he passed, it was given to his wife, who said, "I'm not publishing this." And then it was given to a niece or something who brought it to the publishing house, and they finally put it out there to the world.
2011, 2012, I believe, is actually when it finally came to market. Yep. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to go that long. But last question. Where can people find you?
Just Google me or look me up on LinkedIn. J.R. Lay or James Robert Lay. I'm actually going through a bit of a personal rebrand of myself. I have two first names, James Robert, but that was always confusing. And so I was like, you know what? 2025 is the year that I simplify. I go back to what I went by in high school, which there was no confusion about that. JR combined the first and
that's good because that's what I've been calling you. So
yeah, it's JR Lay.
I'm up with the new branding already. Awesome. Well, JR, thanks for joining.
Man, thanks so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun today.
Cheers. That's the show, everyone. You can leave a rating and review, or you can do something that benefits you. Click the link in the show notes to subscribe to Agency Forward on Substack. You'll get weekly content, resources, and links from around the internet to help you drive your agency forward.